The college football coaching carousel right now is crazier than it's ever been, and there's going to be a domino effect on the ACC.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive lineman and co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. UVA wins another one in overtime. I know Kenton wasn't too happy because, or actually he was happy because they beat the Dirty Foot Club. Georgia Tech and Miami drop in the rankings despite winning games in dominant fashion, but that's how it goes when you're in the ACC and you're not in the SEC or the Big Ten. But Kenton, the big news that shook the college football world on Sunday night, Brian Kelly has been fired by LSU. And this is not the first, not the second, not even the third mega opening in the college football coaching carousel right now. As you look at Andy Staples from On3, he ranked his best available college football jobs right now. So you've got the LSU job open. You've got the Florida job open. Let's not forget Penn State is open. They were trendsetters. Actually, I guess Arkansas and UCLA fired their coaches first. But Arkansas is open. Let's not forget Virginia Tech is open, so that's a direct ACC correlation right there. Oklahoma State, UCLA, Stanford. Frank Reich is interim all year. Oregon State, Colorado State, UAB, and Kent State. Kenton, let's start here with the ACC tie-ins. Do you think Virginia Tech, their job at number 5, do you think they are ranked appropriately here by Staples?
I very much so do. And I see them as appropriately ranked here. I might jump them over Arkansas. And let me tell you why. Although both of those schools, everybody knows that there are two categories of schools I talk about. 8 wins is the line of demarcation. If you do that forever, how long can you coach at the school, right? I think Arkansas and Virginia Tech are both schools. You win 8 games a year, you'll have your own statue. They'll name the field after you. Great. Here's the thing, though. Arkansas is tasked with doing that in the SEC with less funds. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, just got a commitment of $50 million.
Yeah.
And you're in the ACC. So I think that I would say Virginia Tech may jump that job in terms of best available. Because when you think about a best available job, Donno, when I see best available, when I'm thinking about jobs, I say, would I take it? Would I take it? If those two jobs were available, which one would you prefer, Donno? Arkansas or Virginia Tech?
I would prefer Virginia Tech. And people, they're going to call us ACC homers for saying that. It's like, how would you turn down the SEC to go to Virginia Tech? They ain't been relevant in 20 years. People are going to say that, but you hit the nail on the head, Kenton. I mean, listen, Arkansas is in the SEC, yes, but they haven't shown they have the resources or the consistency to compete with the big boys in that conference, which makes your path to postseason play, to playoff, that much harder than it would be in Virginia Tech, because at least the ACC, you have, one guaranteed bid at the moment. In the next format, you'll probably have at least 2 guaranteed bids. Your path is easier. And like you said, the boosters there in Blacksburg are showing they do want to commit to football. So, yes, a lot of ACC jobs are not better than SEC jobs just because of the conference. But in this case, Arkansas and Virginia Tech, I'm with you. I would take the Virginia Tech job if I had the choice.
And even beyond that, look at the closest major city to both of those schools. Donald, I want you to guess what the closest major city to Arkansas is, if I'm considering major city 200,000 or more population-wise.
I mean, now you're testing my geography, and that's the part of the country I usually fly right over. But I'll say, I don't know, Dallas?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You call that a major city? You know what? I should have known that because I watch Tulsa King with Stallone. I should have known that one.
Oh, Tulsa King with Stallone is actually a really good show.
Good show.
It's such an underrated show. It's so
underrated.
But But with that in mind, I want you to really think about that as opposed to Virginia Tech, which obviously it's in the state of Virginia. How far is it from the DMV? Not very far.
No, it's not
just
far.
not, right? So
yeah, I've been to Blacksburg multiple times, and I think I flew into DC to get there.
My point exactly. So with that in mind, this is a much more attractive job for, again, a plethora of reasons. This is not to say that Arkansas is a terrible job and, I'd rather be at Kent State. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a legitimate case for Virginia Tech being over Arkansas in a bunch of different standpoints, in my personal opinion. So I could see them jumping. I'm also not mad. I think it's more of a 4A, 4B than a true 4 or 5. Because I think there's 1, 2, 3, and then a gap, which a certain team may be filling that gap this offseason. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and then for Arkansas.
Right. And so Virginia Tech, I don't think their administration gets stressed every time like an LSU or a Florida fires their coach, because they're not going to be competing for the same candidates, right? I mean, now there may be some anxiety in Gainesville seeing the LSU job come open. I'm sure there's been anxiety in State College, PA, when the Florida and then LSU job came open, because that top 3 is in a different tier. Like they're potentially going to be competing for the same people, whereas Virginia Tech and the Arkansas on down, Stanford are not going to be competing for the same coaching candidates. So that's an important factor here. All right, so another ACC tie-in, Kenton, is there's a coach right now in Tallahassee who is not too popular among his fan base, Mike Norvell at Florida State. They've lost 4 straight. I think they actually lost to the bye week last weekend, so that would make 5 straight L's for Mike Norvell. Has not won an ACC game since October of last year against Cal. And, there's a lot of unrest there in the fact that Norvell hasn't even been fired yet. So a couple things on Florida State. Before we determine where they would be on this list, that would be another school that if that job comes open, they're going to be competing with the Penn States, the Floridas, the LSUs, and so on. So do you think the timing of firing Mike Norvell right now or this season would be so poor that they may have to hold on to him until the next coaching cycle just so they're not competing with all these other big programs?
No, you can't hold on to Norvell. You're at one of those 10 to 11 schools where winning 8 games a year is not enough. And you're going to tell me all of those not winning 8 games, all of those schools where not winning 8 games is enough, they're already in the enough spot. But Donno, you're going to tell me you're going to go from winning 8 gets you fired to having potential back-to-back years of missing bowl games. And mind you, you're a Miami guy, so I'm sure you're aware of this. Who holds the record for most consecutive bowl games?
Florida State? Or no.
State.
Oh, they do. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because when
they held the record for most consecutive. That is like the bar, the floor. Like, we're terrible this year. We're gonna go to the Macron Computer Bowl, I guess. Whatever. Like that was their floor. And now they're in the basement, and they're gonna hold on. No. You can't do that. You can't do that. Especially when Florida is gonna have a new coach. Miami right now. Miami is so good, fans are upset. Miami fans are upset after a 35-point win.
You should see my comment section. My comment section consists of a bunch of Miami fans who are like, why are you going so easy on this team after they only beat Stanford by 35 points? I'm like, what?
35-point win over a conference opponent, Donno. We're not talking about a 35-point win over Coppin State or Arkansas Pine Bluff or, the Southeastern Directional School for the Differently Able. We're talking about a 35-point win over a conference opponent, and Miami fans are disappointed. That's how good Miami is right now. That's how intense this team is rolling right now. Yeah. And you're telling me that all you got to trot out and attract recruits in that hotbed of talent that is South Florida, that is the state of Miami, that you think you're going to get away with that? Meanwhile, you got Fran Brown, who is also having a terrible year, picking off your 5 stars out of that area, and you think you're going to be okay with that in terms of Tallahassee and the Panhandle and all that? You think you're going to be okay with that? If you are, good luck. If you believe that, I have oceanfront property to sell you in Raleigh. Don't ask me which ocean it's off of. Just give me the money because you'll believe anything.
All right, so Kenton Gibbs, raises a good point that you can't hold on to Norvell just because of the timing. That can't be the reason. So let's talk about where the Florida State job would rank compared to this other slate if it does come open. You want to keep it locked right here. We are only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, Game Time is the only ticket app that Kenton Gibbs and I use. We're getting the best prices, the best features, like a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Prices that do not jump at checkout. What you see is what you get on Game Time, and you don't have to face endless queues, hidden fees, nothing like that. That's why we use the Game Time app, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I love zone deals, too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go! Download the Game Time app today. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone do an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack, covering all things NC State. I cover all things Miami. If you want to complain about too many runs up the middle in a 35-point win, Locked On Canes is the place for you to do that. Drop your comments on that. Available free wherever you get your podcasts, and available free on YouTube. All right, so let me pull up these rankings again. Again, this is Andy Staples from On3. I agree for the most part, though, with his rankings of the available jobs at this moment. We can debate some of these in a second, but Kenton, if the Florida State Seminoles job were to come open tomorrow, where would you rank it on this chart?
I would say number 2. I would say 2.
Ooh.
I would say
above
2.
Florida? Wow.
Absolutely. In terms of recent success, if you were to go down that list and say who's the most recent national champion out of, again, Florida State's on this list, where would they fall?
Yeah. More recent than Florida and less recent than LSU.
Okay, well, you know what? National championship is too broad, Donno. That's too broad. Mm-hmm. If you were to say last conference champion of all of these teams, where would they fall?
First.
Oh, okay. So they'd be the first. Okay. Well, you know what, Donno? That's not fair. That's not fair to these teams. That's not fair to all they got going on. Sure. If you were to say of all of these jobs, which ones have had the most coaches that have proven that they have sticking power, that got there and stayed for 5 years or more, which school is the most recent? Yeah. Right,
that would be Florida State, right? Because LSU and Florida have made changes every few years.
LSU and Florida have made changes every few years.
I mean, Penn State is in there as well.
Yeah, Penn State would be number one in that regard.
Yeah,
but that's the only regard where they're number one in. And Penn State comes with its own set of problems because if you sign up to go to Penn State, you know that you're signing up to play some combination of these schools every year. Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. You're signing up to play. And it feels crazy to say this, but I got to say it now, and Indiana. That's something that you are guaranteeing yourself every single year. Signetti just signed an extension. Michigan, you know that they're only going to get better. This is probably the worst that they're going to be in quite some time with that quarterback that they got down there. You've got you've got Ohio State and what they've been for quite some time. Oregon, although they're always the bridesmaid, never the bride, that's still something. Nationally, that's still something. Regardless of coach, Oregon has been there and been right there knocking on the door, regardless of who's the coach. So you got to deal with all those things if you go to Penn State. Florida is a revolving door of coaches. Every time you look up, Florida's got a new coach. You blink, and Florida's probably going to have a new coach. You know, that's just where you're at. Florida State has shown you they will commit to a coach and sometimes stick with a coach when clearly, as B.B. King once said, the thrill is gone. The thrill of Norvell is clearly gone. Jared Verse ain't walking through that door. Jordan Travis ain't walking through that door. Braden Fisk ain't walking through that door. And yet, Alfred and company said, what? We are committed to him through the end of the season. As all these other places unsanctimoniously fired their coaches, some of whom had more achievements at their school than Norvell did at Florida State. And yet they still don't get the love, or they still don't get that ability to, at least finish the year.
You raise a good point about the commitment to the coach you have in place. And then there's also, in Florida State's favor, again, you have the ACC. I mean, for as long as they're in the ACC, that may not be more than a couple more years. But at this moment, you do have the ACC factor where you have an easier road to the CFP than Florida would have. Still, the reason why I would be hesitant to put Florida State's job above Florida's, and I don't know if this outweighs your argument completely, but I think at this moment and for the next few years, I think Florida's in a much better financial situation in terms of the booster flow. The buyout of Billy Napier was only about $21 million, where if Florida State, if they do buy out Norvell, it's closer to $60 million. And Florida didn't just pay a bunch of money on stadium renovations and on a lawsuit with the conference that they're currently in. So I do think there's a big financial advantage for Florida, but I'd love to hear from people in the comments below. Like, does that argument outweigh everything that Kenton said? Because I think these are both valid arguments. Now, I see what Florida fans are talking about on social media, Kenton. Florida fans get very angry when anyone says that the LSU job is better than their job. Like, they're very passionate about that not being the case. Couple things for you on LSU. The two major reasons why I do feel the LSU job is better than the Florida job. Number one, short term isn't everything, but LSU's roster right now, I think, is closer to championship level than Florida's. So that's something that their coaching candidates are going to think about. I could maybe win faster at LSU than I could at Florida. But then the other argument, this may be an even bigger argument why I think the LSU job is slightly better, and not head and shoulders better, but slightly better, is now Florida and Louisiana, Kenton, are both excellent high school recruiting states, right? Yep. I mean, you could argue Florida's probably a little bit better. Louisiana's a smaller state, per capita probably better. Florida, better overall. However, when you're at LSU, you have no in-state competition for Louisiana players. Mm-hmm. None. Nothing of note, anyway. I mean, you're worried about competing with the Ragin' Cajuns of the world and the McNeese State? No, you're not. Whereas when you're at Florida, and again, this state's a great recruiting state, but you are competing with the likes of Miami and Florida State for Florida players in a way that LSU coaches are not competing with anybody for Louisiana players.
Absolutely. And let's take it a step further. You talked about Texas and Florida flanking LSU. Quick question, Donno. If we were to say Dallas to Gainesville, you know how long that drive is?
Oh, it's got to be like 15 plus hours. I don't know.
Donno is a sharpshooter, ladies and gentlemen. 14 hours and 49 minutes. What about Houston to Gainesville, perhaps? What do you think about that per chance?
17, 18 hours?
13. And now, if you tied both of those places to Baton Rouge, neither one is over 6.5. So why am I saying that? Why am I comparing that? We all know, even in the era of NIL, there's always going to be kids who, I want mama, I want grandma, I want dad, I want granddad, I want auntie, uncle, sister, brother to see me play. I want to play at a school that's near home or something like that, right? Well, you talked about the idea of nobody competing with you in Louisiana, but even in the state of Texas, who's competing with you? I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. The wheels are kind of falling off now that we found out that Arch he's looking like another Arch that we can't talk about on this show without losing our clean rating. You've got, your biggest two teams right now in Texas are who? Texas A&M and Texas Tech. I mean, with all due respect, do either one of those teams have the historical type of, hey, you're a national championship winner. You are a team that's perennially good. You are a team that's in that area the same way LSU does? No. Yeah. Neither one of them had that type of cachet. So, but again, I'm talking about the state of Texas here, much closer to LSU than it is to Florida. The other part of why I don't think Florida fans should be offended by that is, at the end of the day, if you talk about recent success, recent coaches who have done well there, it is not close. What is Florida known for right now? If a receiver comes out of LSU, NFL teams start salivating if he caught 3 passes. They all of a sudden say, oh, he's an LSU receiver, you say? Give him to me. I need him in the top 60 picks right now. What is Florida known for? I believe what they're currently known for is one of their rush
NFL
edges.
Draft busts.
I was just about to say one of their rush edges saying, hey, actually, I had to leave because they weren't developing anybody. So, this is a situation where, again, LSU is a much clearer, more attractive job. And again, I will die on this hill. Florida State is a better job than Florida. And yes, I know they're leaving the ACC. That's still a better job. You and I had a guy who talked about the fact that his law firm does 7 figures a year on this show. As much as we talk about, oh, man, where are the boosters going to come up with this money from? They always seem to come up with it, don't they, Don?
Yeah, they do.
We always seem to look around. Where the hell did all that money come from? And it's always there. At NC State, people called us the farmer school. And all of a sudden, when they got rid of Kevin Keats, overnight, $20 million popped in like it was nothing.
Great point.
He's gone now. Let's drop in money. I'm sorry to tell you all this, but if you are a large public institution, you will always have that money readily available. And that's just what we're looking at in terms of Florida State in this buyout situation. Because didn't we talk about how are they going to pay for a buyout with owing on the stadium and all that? The money just keeps appearing out of thin air.
All right, so final thoughts on the coaching carousel. So you see, again, like the biggest jobs that are open right now, LSU, Florida, Penn State. You have to wonder what other jobs could come open. Hugh Freeze's seat at Auburn is pretty hot. That's obviously a big job if that comes open. There have been rumors. I know he came out and denied it, but there have been rumors about Sark looking to go to the NFL. I mean, if the Texas job came open, you talk about booster money. If the Texas job came open, forget about it.
And I'm going to tell you, as a Midwestern guy, as a Detroiter, that Michigan seat ain't as cold as people think it is. That Michigan seat is not as cold as people think it is. Yeah. I'm not saying that Sharon Moore is going this offseason. I'm just saying that seat is warmer than a lot of people think, especially with Michigan fans now getting accustomed to beating Ohio State. If they and company put the brakes on them boys this year, it'll be tough.
All right, coming up next here on Locked On ACC, even if you win your games when you're in the ACC, you still can drop in the rankings at any moment. UVA gets a big win in overtime, another one. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, FanDuel is the spot. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. So over the weekend, Kenton, and obviously I know that these were teams that these winners were supposed to beat and beat handily. Georgia Tech, who entered the weekend number 7, beats the brakes off of Syracuse. Miami beats the brakes off of Stanford. And Georgia Tech drops from number 7 to number 8. Miami drops from number 9 to number 10. Let me see if I can pull up the AP top 25 here. All right, so you're looking at this. The teams that jumped up, Vanderbilt jumps ahead of Miami into number 9 after beating 15th ranked Mizzou, which it's a good win, I guess. Ole Miss, big win against Oklahoma. They jump in front of Georgia Tech, and you can only play who's on the schedule, Kenton. Like, I get it. Miami and Georgia Tech didn't have flashy wins like Ole Miss and Vanderbilt had, and for Miami and for Georgia Tech, the motto should be for both of them, just keep winning, right? If Georgia Tech keeps winning, even if they lose to Georgia, if they win all their other games, they're going to be in the college football playoff. Obviously, whoever wins the ACC, Georgia Tech is the favorite, will be in the CFP. If Miami wins out, even if Miami doesn't get into the ACC championship game at 11-1, they're more than likely in the playoff. So just win your games and you're in should be the motto for these teams. And again, I get it that, they didn't have showcase victories, but the issue that I have is the double standard. Oregon doesn't drop despite the fact that they labored to beat an awful Wisconsin team. They beat them 21-7. Like, Oregon was supposed to win that game by 50, right? Mm-hmm. Alabama had a miraculous comeback to beat a 3-4 South Carolina team, and Bama also has a double-digit loss to Florida State on their resume. They don't move in the rankings. So it's like, I understand, like, I'm nitpicking here, but these slides only seem to happen, Kenton, to ACC teams. Never happens to Big Ten teams or SEC teams.
No, you're not nitpicking. You're telling the truth of what you're seeing. It is flatly ridiculous, Donno. It has gotten to a point where it has to be pointed out. It has to be called out. The overwhelming ridiculousness of what we're seeing in these standings and these rankings. Because while people could say, well, the metrics say Georgia Tech isn't that good. And, well, the metrics say they haven't beaten anybody. Well, the metrics say they've beaten everybody lined up in front of them. That's what the metrics also say. The metrics also say that, oh, well, Miami has a loss. Oh, well, Miami's loss is to a Louisville team that's not very good. You sure about that?
Yeah, they're 6-1, and they're ranked.
Hello? Like, their only loss came to a team that is also one loss in UVA.
Yeah, that's right.
If you put UVA, and UVA is another reason that this thing got me hyped, because if you put their resume up against most of the teams that are in front of them, you have a very good argument for, now, wait a minute, why aren't they higher? Wait a minute, what's going on there? If you put Louisville's resume against most of these teams ahead of them, quick question, Donno, Louisville beat who? Who was their biggest win on the season? I'm sure you know this.
Oh, I mean, number 10, Miami. I mean, former number 9, Miami.
Former number 9, Miami. Where was Miami?
Former number 2, Miami, actually. Number 2 when
that
Louisville
was what I was
beat
about
them.
to say. So
yeah.
the Louisville beating them meant nothing, but Bama beating Georgia meant that much that it completely wipes out their loss
that's right.
to Florida State. That, again, this is a true fact. Florida State has never been in front of Stanford in terms of ACC standings. Not one day of their existence in this conference have they been in front of them. And granted, I know it's only been the last 2 years, but you get the point.
That's something, though. Yeah.
So we carry over stuff from last year, and we believe all this stuff from last year, except when it comes to the SEC losses. It's BS. It's clear BS. It's clear. And I'm going to tell you, the same way that they're finding out that all of this NBA stuff is collusion for betting, how do we not look at ESPN and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have a setup where you all have exclusive deals with entire conferences. Maybe we do need balkanizations of those TV deals to where it's like, hey, you get this team, you get this team, you get this team. And then you all don't get to decide like, hey, we're going to do this ranking in this way. And our AP voters, if you have an interest in a certain school being ranked, you should not have Associated Press voters, period. You shouldn't. That's just my opinion on it, because it's clear that this bias will not stop so long as the money incentivizes it.
So some of the other results in the ACC over the weekend, we were wrong about Cal at Virginia Tech, not by much because it took overtime, but the Hokies did beat. And our guy Lawrence Ross always tells us that Cal is so unpredictable. I mean, they should have beaten Virginia Tech. They didn't. Yeah. Kudos to the Hokies, 42-34. They had an awesome crowd for a bad team with an interim coach. They bring it strong in Blacksburg. We mentioned Miami and Georgia Tech both steamrolling. Miami beat Stanford 42-7. Georgia Tech beat Syracuse 41-16. Louisville, they were on the ropes early, but they did beat Boston College 38-24. SMU has big issues right now, Kenton, and I can't just look and say that they're like flat out bad. They've got a ton of key injuries right now. They lose to Wake Forest 13-12 Wake Forest hits a game-winning 50-yard field goal as time expires. It was a comedy of errors for SMU. And I think very highly of Rhett Lashley, but he called an awful game. Then you've also got Kevin Jennings limited due to injury. Chris Johnson is injured. They've got 2 starting offensive linemen injured. So SMU's kind of a mess right now, but that was a meaningful loss for them and a big win for Wake Forest. In fact, that was SMU's first ACC regular season loss ever. It had never happened in 2 years.
And it happened in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Didn't I tell you, Donno?
On the CW.
CW means Carolinian wins. I listen, it's just what it means. I don't understand it, but if your team has to play a team that's based in the state of North Carolina on the CW, go ahead and book that L. Go ahead and book it. Because it's some devil magic. It's some devil magic on the CW.
Yeah, I'm going to let Kenton off the hook. We're not going to spend much time on Pittsburgh putting a 50 burger on NC State 53-34.
The right team's favorite. The right team.
Yeah. Now, Virginia, Kenton, you feel like they have a horseshoe, like you know where, but Virginia wins again. They survive the Fighting Belichicks. Virginia wins 17-16 in Chapel Hill in overtime. Bill Belichick, I think he had to be home or he had to be down for the early bird special. So in the first overtime, Belichick said, "You know what? We're going for 2. Yep. Win or lose, we're going home right now." They went for 2, and I don't know why the receiver didn't extend the ball a little bit more. Like he was like a quarter of a yard short of playing for the win. So it was a defensive bat. I think North Carolina, sacked Chandler Morris 6 times, if I saw that correctly. Defensive battle, multiple takeaways on both sides. They were 10-10 into overtime. That was the type of game it was in Chapel Hill. But Virginia survives, Kenton, and Virginia wins in overtime for the 3rd freaking time this year.
Donno, as much as people are saying, "Oh, Virginia's lucky, they're lucky, they're lucky," I want you to truly examine what Tony Elliott has been through in his time being there. They deserve this luck. They deserve. Yeah. He has seen unprecedented things happen, not just for Virginia.
Adversity, tragedy, yeah.
Hello? Things that are not just exclusive to Virginia. I mean, unprecedented in terms of college sports, period. Listen, Virginia, I'm happy for y'all. Y'all, hey, go Hoos. We are all Hoos right now because I'm so proud of this team, man. Yeah. I thought that they were going to be a nothing burger. I thought that both of these Virginia teams were going to be looking for new coaches at the end of this thing. But Tony Elliott, call it luck, call it the horseshoe, call it the whatever you want to call it that man cooling off his seat as cold as ice, and he deserves it. This team deserves it. That fan base deserves it. I mean, you can say what you want about this team, but that there was a reason that field storming after Florida State was as massive as it was. A team that has not been good in recent history. Fans could have saw that game and said, "Oh no, Florida State gonna beat us by 40. Man, we ain't got no reason to show up." And what did they do? They showed up and showed out. Much love and much respect to UVA. Great job. And again, don't y'all tell me about Georgia Tech and Miami starting slow, because we saw Bama barely scrape by. Okay? Yes. My grandma called me at halftime and said, "My Tide just sorry, ain't they, grandson?" I said, "I don't know what's going on." I
wanted them to lose so bad because the grocery clerk at my neighborhood Winn-Dixie's, this old lady who's a huge Bama fan, and after Miami lost to Louisville, she was taunting me. I wanted to be able to taunt her back, but I lost that right because South Carolina choked. By the way, on Virginia, you eloquently said everything why we should totally be happy for Tony Elliott in that program. There's only one very selfish reason why I want Virginia to lose a game, and it's not the one you think. It's not to help Miami in the ACC standings. It's not that. The reason why I want Virginia to lose is, Kenton, I am so tired of people on social media and in our comment section asking me every day, "Hey, you're wrong. Why do you keep saying Virginia's unbeaten in ACC play? They lost to North Carolina State." I get asked that question 10 freaking times a day, and every time I address it, nobody listens. It's in one ear, out the other. That was a non-conference game, NC State and Virginia scheduled each other outside of the parameters of the conference schedule.
Yep.
So I need that team to lose, because if Virginia gets to the ACC championship game, I'm going to have to answer that question another 1,600 times, and I don't want it.
I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you at all. It is true foolishness and malarkey to sit here and keep saying that. I don't know what's wrong with people in today's society. If you're going to be loud, at least don't be wrong. If you're going to be loud, at least take a
it
little
takes
time.
3 seconds to Google
Yeah.
why Virginia is whatever they are, 4 or 5-0 now in the ACC, even though they lost to NC State. Like the Google, like the Gemini AI is going to give you a really quick answer. You don't have to ask me 10 times a day.
You don't have to do it. You don't have to. Donno knows these things, okay? Donno knows ball. Donno knows bets. Donno knows fatherhood. He knows a little bit of something about something.
Yeah. Not so good on the bets recently, because I keep betting Alabama to cover the spread, and they keep winning and not covering. And it's
Donno.
It's driving me crazy.
The question for Bama in terms of do they cover or will they win against the spread is always one question. Does that team have a number by their name or no? If a team don't have a number by their name, Bama does not show up.
That's a great
They have
point.
not shown up all year against teams.
Yeah.
Did Florida State have a number by their name in game 1?
No.
What about South Carolina this last game? Were they ranked?
No.
Congratulations. I just gave you the secret. If you are a betting degenerate like my good friend Alex Donno here, when you are betting on Bama, does the team that they're playing have a number by their name? If they do not, they're at minimum going to start slow and no, we're figuring it out and and Lord forbid they might just lose the thing outright.
Yeah, for real. You're right about that. I will keep that in mind. I'm just going to not bet on Bama again. I'm putting myself in timeout. Great job as always by Kenton Gibbs. Follow him on X at TGIF_Kenton, and make sure to check him out on Locked On Wolfpack. Check me out on Locked On Canes and follow me at Alex Donno. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.